Right now, this afternoon, President Obama addressed the nation on the war on terror. Meanwhile, the government just formally acknowledged that it had killed 4 Americans overseas using drones. The question we get into tonight is there a place here for drones in our war on terror? And next, Chris Christie. No matter what the headlines are, this governor is polling unbelievably well and in a blue state. Many are asking if this story of the New Jersey comeback is more fiction than fact. And later, former Congressman Anthony Weiner, he is back, as we told you last night, trying to convince New Yorkers to give him a second chance and make him the next mayor. The question is, are New Yorkers buying what he's selling? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us this Thursday evening, May 23rd. And we start tonight with the war on terror. The president making a major speech on the issue earlier today, addressing many burning questions about everything from our country's use of drones to the status of Guantanamo Bay. Now, our senior political correspondent Andrew Whitman, he has more, and he joins us now.
And Rich, with that speech, the future of our nation's fight against terror entered a new phase as President Obama delivered a speech laying out major changes to American national security policy. This afternoon, President Obama defended the most controversial aspect of America's national security strategy, unmanned drone attacks. He said they were legal, effective, and necessary to dismantle networks of extremists in hard-to-reach places across the globe.
Conventional air power, or missiles, are far less precise than drones and are likely to cause more civilian casualties and more local outrage.
But the president also discussed what he called hard questions, concerns about accountability and morality. During his hour-long speech at National Defense University, Mr. Obama addressed those concerns by signing new presidential policy guidelines, which provide more transparency about authorized drone attacks. In a significant shift, the policy now has the military taking the lead over the CIA in conducting drone strikes outside of war zones. This move comes one day after the administration acknowledged that 4 American citizens had been killed in secret drone strikes overseas.
Citizenship should no more serve as a shield than a sniper shooting down on an innocent crowd should be protected from a SWAT team.
Mr. Obama also renewed his promise to close the detainee prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
There is no justification beyond politics for Congress to prevent us from closing a facility that should have never been opened.
The line also drew repeated boisterous interruptions from a heckler. Reaction to the Gitmo policy from Capitol Hill was swift. Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham both said that until the administration comes up with a better plan about what to do with Gitmo detainees, the prison will likely stay open. Rich?
Well, Andrew, thank you very much. And for more, we're very pleased to be joined by Pierre Shaw, the Edward R. Murrah Press Fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and a contributor at globalpost.com. He's been writing extensively on the U.S. drone program, including a piece in Foreign Policy magazine called My Drone War. Pierre, thank you very much for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
What did you make of the president's address today? And do you get the sense that there'll be more transparency going forward and clear accountability when it comes to the U.S. use of drones?
Exactly. I think the very fact that President Obama spoke on the subject, it's a big way in the way of transparency in this program. So I think we will be expecting more openness, and the whole problem with the drone program was the lack of transparency. And that's why there was so much controversy and many unconfirmed reports and sometimes manipulation by various groups. And I think if this issue is resolved, a lot will get better in this whole drone debate.
You know, I read a piece that you wrote about a year ago, specifically on drones, and you put it in person context, My Drone War, since you know Pakistan almost as well as any reporter who's covered it. And it's a very complicated answer in terms of, are they effective and is it worth it? Even some of the biggest critics of drones say compared to the alternative, it may be, you know, a better price to pay than an actual ground invasion or whatever else. But at the same end, they're not sure that death from above and sometimes indiscriminate at that, is a price they're willing to live with. Talk about, on the ground level, whether or not this is killing more terrorists than it makes.
No, I think the drone program has been really effective, and in the absence of an effective Pakistani ground operation or any other operation, drones were and are the only weapons available in that part of the conflict.
Pierre, I'm curious. I've seen polls here from the American public that support the use of drones. If a similar poll was tasked, whether it be in Yemen or in Pakistan, and there was the availability of anonymity where people could answer that same question if they support or oppose the practice of drones, what do you think the final tally would resemble? Do you think more Pakistanis overall support it or oppose it?
It's in Pakistan case, it's different. If you conduct this survey in mainstream Pakistan, outside of the areas where drones are striking, the tally would be against the drones. But if you do the same thing in those areas where the drones attacks are actually taking place, then people will be supporting it, because the alternative of a Pakistani military operation and jet bombing has been horrible, and there are still more than 700,000 people displaced because of the military operation, and not a single family has been displaced by the drones. So people in the areas, in the tribal areas where drones are taking place, they have a completely different view of the strikes than as from those who are in the cities.
Finally, Pierre, one of the things that struck me from today was that the president, related to unrest in the Middle East, it used to be called the Arab Spring. It's amazing how much changes in a 6-month, 3-month period, and how much the U.S. perspective and role and even strategy there changes in just a matter of a few months. From a person who covered it on a ground level, it is amazing how much, maybe in the not too distant future, we're going to look back at this chapter in Middle Eastern history and just see how fluid it was, won't it?
A lot has, you are right, a lot has changed in the Middle East, and I think this change will continue. And as the president said that, I mean, the U.S. Has to be supporting ultimately the future of democracy in the region, because although we called it the Arab Spring, but the results haven't been what people were expecting in terms of improvement in human rights, improvement in democratic participation.
Pierre, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much here for joining us. Everyone, we will take a quick commercial break. But in the meantime, we ask you at home to join in on our conversation, and you can head to Facebook and Twitter and also make your opinion heard. The U.S. drone program, do you fully support it, or, as some argue, that this is creating as many terrorists as it kills, or is this just a necessary tool in the 21st century? Our panel sounds off when we come back, so please stay with us.
Yes, the conflict with Al-Qaeda, like all armed conflict, invites tragedy. But by narrowly targeting our action against those who want to kill us and not the people they hide among, we are choosing the course of action least likely to result in the loss of innocent life. Our efforts must be measured against the history of putting American troops in distant lands among hostile populations. In Vietnam, hundreds of thousands of civilians died in a war where the boundaries of battle were blurred. In Iraq and Afghanistan, despite the extraordinary courage and discipline of our troops, thousands of civilians have been killed. So neither conventional military action nor waiting for attacks to occur offers moral safe harbor. And neither does a sole reliance on law enforcement in territories that have no functioning police or security services, and indeed have no functioning law.